3D picture is a real physical relation for the audience. So you need to just understand what you can get, how it works, and get inside your thinking, creative thinking, since the beginning, so the writing and the pre-production. Okay, I can have more attention, I can have more emotion with the 3D, and so change, think about your mise en scène, and think about this 3D as another language who could help you a lot at the end for to have another movie.
So, from your experiences and your workshops in the Cross-Channel Film Lab, could you tell us what are the main challenges when writing a 3D movie compared to a 2D movie? Have you already some differences?
So, as a starting point, we can give you the result of an experience that we did 4 years ago. We've been financed to do tests with the same story, the same core of a story. We were exploring how we would write that same core for a 3D shoot and for 3D movie, for 3D version, for cinema, and then how we would write and direct and edit for the same to bring the same idea on screen, but with a 2D environment. And what was really interesting is that we found ourselves in front of the fact that we needed, for the same core, we needed in 3D 5 times less shots. And with 5 times less shots, we ended up having a result which was double in length after the editing. Which means to us that when people tend to say that if you shoot a 3D movie, you have to add a percentage in terms of budget. It's going to be like 20%, for instance, or 30% more expensive if it's going to be 3D compared to a 2D version of the same film. But the result we had after our experiences, we discovered that it's not possible to compare because it's a completely different experience that we are creating, both for those who create, who write, direct, and edit. It's a completely different experience. Physiologically, if it has to be shown in 3D and not mixed 2D, 3D, then it's a completely different experience, and it is possible to use that tool for auteurs. I mean, to create a new kind of portrait for cinema and a new kind of a very deeply new kind of experience for the viewer. And now we all believe that we have to get, especially young audiences in Europe, we want to get them, in a way, back to theaters. And that's one of the ways to attract new people to theaters is to create new experiences for the viewer that can be attractive enough and amazing enough. And that for us is why we consider that we have to push auteurs, art house filmmakers or independent filmmakers, to dive into 3D in order to make it their language.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So you're saying that in Europe you've got a strong author politic, like director who are writing their own scripts, then they're directing, and you're saying that 3D could be really the good medium for them. It's really the way to work 3D, to think, to write your own movie.
Making a 3D movie is it can be the creation of a brand new experience and a brand new poetical experience for the viewers and for the maker. And of course, if we want to do that for a small or medium budget, it means we cannot go into the left part of this drawing, which is what most blockbusters are doing in 3D. Work with action, with fast editing, and a conquest of space. Here it means that we have to work with art house cinema in a world which is more dealing with shape and intimacy, and that is very interesting because when you work with the far right side of the drawing, it means you can reduce, of course, the cost of the movie very much, and you can enter a new kind of exploration which has not really been done apart from Pina and apart from maybe Gravity has been the film which is in between. You know, Gravity starts with the left part of the drawing and ends up exploring the right part. And we believe it is completely possible and amazing to explore the right part of the drawing for art house cinema.
Don't misunderstand the way we talk about blockbuster. Gravity is a wonderful and beautiful example of a director, someone who take care about what he can get with 3D and totally adapt a mise-en-scène, sound and picture with the 3D and propose a fully extraordinary experience, even if it was a big movie. So the thing is, if at the really first step, people can have this possibility to have clue with 3D, understand what they can get with the mise-en-scène, with maybe another way of writing, another way of shooting, of cutting, and get something stronger with the 3D. I think this is the reason why we are developing this kind of organism. It's to leave the author and the creative part to understand the 3D and get inside another language and propose artistically something strong. And
on the technical aspect of really writing script, how do you deal with the immersive aspect of 3D and the new grammar of cinema 3D is inputting in movies?
So what is really interesting for a screenwriter is that drama structure is created in order to create immersion for the viewer. I mean, we are in a way building a script, building a story so that we can take the viewer's head and throw it into the screen. But what if the screen itself is throwing itself to the face of the viewer? It means that maybe too much drama structure or too much rhythm in the script can, in a way, destroy the meeting of the viewer and the screen. And what we find really interesting is that 3D can be seen as a medium totally dedicated to slower experiences in cinema. And that's kind of good for our kids, no?
Not less intense. Not less intense.
No,
not less intense, as intense, but with a slower approach, because we need more brain time to explore what is happening.
It's absolutely the example of the beginning of Gravity. It's a 10 minutes long shot at the beginning. We are totally immersed with one main character. We are with her, and suddenly he can take our hand as an audience and and experience a movie during 1 hour and a half. And I think it's really important to understand that if you have this idea to put a layer of just on the top of your 2D way of doing a movie, you will probably lose what the 3D can give you as an author, as a emotion, tension, all the sensation you can get. If you are at the beginning, you have this opportunity to understand, to see, to analyze, to open your perspective and say, okay, I can, is that with the 3D? I can have that, yeah, really interesting, and I will write for that. I will change my mise-en-scène, and at the end, you will have the opportunity to use a wonderful medium to your story.
One of the key elements that we discovered working with researchers on the brain, because we have groups of people in our consortium that are working more on the perception side, and it seems that the part of the brain which is stimulated by 3D images has nothing to do with the part of the brain which is stimulated by 2D images. And the type of experience for us as viewers is of a different nature. And then we have to study that nature in order to understand how we have to, I mean, for instance, we know for sure now that the part which is stimulated by 2D images is the cognitive part of the brain. And the part which is stimulated by 3D images is far more the reptilian part of the brain. It's the part of the brain which is connected to the most fundamental instincts in us, meaning that sometimes the rational part of the brain cannot control what we are feeling in front of a good 3D moment. And so that means that for a screenwriter, the writing experience has to be completely different. And this is why we discovered that if we want to make any progress, if we want to create a new language, if we want to, because now we have the tools, 20 years ago it wasn't possible. Now we have the tools. With the new tools, digital tools, most of them, we have the fantastic opportunity of establishing a new language and remembering of what was the initial search for, in the beginning of photography, 3D photography, more than a century ago, was the thing. And the only reason why 2D won the war against 3D is because it was easier to reproduce for newspapers. And but so of course, yeah. So and then it is not because the flat image won the war at that time that we have to forget that what was creating amazement, what was creating the deep sensation of a new feeling about the world, about what we could perceive of the world, what was giving us the feeling of a new inquiry for the viewer through 3D image about what the world is and how the world talks to us, then it means that we have to go back to that initial amazement for the beginning of 3D photography in order to go back to a new phenomenology. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much for let us discover this new territory of creativity. I'm sorry, we have to move to the next speaker.
Hello, everyone.
So, Gallien, you're following the evolution of 3D since 15 years, and CoProd is involved in many 3D projects, such as movies, documentaries, advertising, and even the art gallery project. A couple of years ago, Futuricon Animation Studio came to see you with the project of Minuscule, The Valley of the Lost Ants, to help them with the 3D. Could you tell us what were their expectations with 3D and maybe their fear, and how did you help them?
Yeah, it was. It's a very interesting case study, especially after what's been discussed, and I could not agree more with everything that's been said just now. Minuscule was very interesting because basically the producer came to us saying, hey, we've got this TV show, this extremely popular TV show, for those who know it, we sold very well, and we want to make a feature film out of it. And we want to make it in 3D because it's for kids, and we believe that it's going to be a big success if we make it in 3D. But we have absolutely no idea where to start, apart from the fact that we know you need two images, left and right. So we started from the storyboard, and basically the first step was to have a look at it and see how much of a 2D cut it was, and what would work fantastically well in 2D but could be very disappointing in 3D. And likewise, what would be quite, not that natural to think of in 3D, but would work really well. So that was the first step. And then very, very quickly, it was trying to help them through the entire workflow, saying, now that we're talking about the storyboard, let's check together what step you need all through the complete process of the film, and where 3D will be involved from like every little detail, and we go into that just after that, in order to make sure that the 3D process is as painless as possible.
Okay, so did you work just as consultant or also as technical? Do you have providing a technical issue?
Well, basically what we did was a little bit of both. Was trying first to assess what kind of issues the film will face in 3D, especially because it's an extremely complex project where every single shot is composited. It's real live action footage with animated insects. So every single shot is compositing. It was a huge challenge as far as 3D is concerned, let alone in 2D. And so it was a little both in terms of consultant. Like we went through the entire process, checking what could be an issue, what could be fine, and then assess what technical solution should be used for every little part, and then what kind of people or technical solution we would recommend and work with, and have on board for this project, including Stereographer, rig solutions, technical solution, post-prod solutions, so pretty much everything all through the DCP delivery.
Okay, so we can tell that you work with the production as a technical partner, like SFX company, and could you tell us a bit more about how you integrated, how you are integrated in the workflow of the general workflow? At which point you have to begin?
Yeah, that's what basically from the very, very beginning. And if we go, this is just an example of the script report that we had with extra camera details, looking like interactual distance, stereo window, offset background. This seems to be all little tiny details, and it's just looks like pretty much nothing on the script report. But if you don't have this while you shoot, and if you're not aware you need to have this, and if you don't have meeting with the stereographer that just tells you, hey, the script girl needs to assess all these elements. Takes about an extra 20 seconds on set, but it's vital when you hit post-production and offline editing. And then basically we went through every little process of preparation, shooting, rush editing, online editing, layout, animation. Every single element had a 3D element to it that just had to be thought about, and that basically all this workflow process has been established prior to shooting, and even sometimes prior to the rig test and camera test before the shoot.
Okay.
So and for every single little step, we're thinking, okay, who's the best person to do it? Here what we recommend. Here what we could do. Here how it should be done. And yeah, that's basically how it worked. So
the sooner you are called for the project, the better you are integrated in the workflow.
Yeah, as Joséphine and Antoine were saying, it's just a process that has to be thought a little bit differently, because if you think you're going to do a 2D film and just add on an extra camera and let's sort it out later, or even in most cases now, let's shoot it in 2D and let's convert it later, it can't work if it's properly thought in 3D beforehand. Otherwise, you're just going to hit the hole in post, or going to hit the wall when delivering the DCP, because the result's going to be appalling, because the film won't be thought in 3D. So that's what we're trying to. The main issue we're trying to address is, and every solution can be possible, but it has to be thought at the 3D film before, because it is pretty different. And if it's thought earlier, then suddenly the workflow process in post-production is going to be much smoother, and it's going to cost much less money. And suddenly the issue of how much more is it going to cost, could almost become irrelevant, because you do less shots, you don't need as many, to cut that many shots, as Antoine just said earlier, and all issues in post has been already addressed, and it's suddenly everybody's happier.
Okay, so it's not obviously more expensive to do a movie in 3D.
Well, it's hard to say. I think it would probably be wrong. If you think you're going to do the same film in 2D but just add 3D on top of it as an extra layer on the cake, it is going to cost more money.
Okay.
Let's face it. If you think about it earlier differently, about maybe 3-4 years ago, we used to say when we were working on the preparation, that when you change the lens on the camera, you could almost treat it as a decor setup, because it would take quite a lot of time. But now the camera gears evolved so much, it's not the case anymore. But that's, again, all the kind of expertise that has to be addressed beforehand. It is true that when it comes to SFX, you have to render more images, and that will always be the case. But again, render farms go faster. There's always solutions to keep the cost as close to what is acceptable in 2D, but in 3D as possible.
Okay. And with your experience, would you say there are ideas, producer might have ideas, that could seem great on paper? We could say, hey, that's going to be great in 3D, but then the idea is not working, or on the contrary, simple ideas that makes really good effects in 3D and are really production values, I would say?
I've got so many examples. I don't know where to start. So yeah, no, it is. It is. Well, the most common mistake is to think of a cut or a shot in 2D, thinking this is great. In 3D, is going to be even better, and sometimes it's not the case. And that's where a stereographer on set and on prep, going through the storyboard may go, yeah, that's the shot you want to do, but what about you do this, because you shot in 3D with the dead axis and the depth will be felt differently and you need the shot to be longer. And so that's the case for almost every shot. If you jump on a 2D film storyboard. So yeah, it's very common, and that's why we're here to help and recommend people that could assess those issues.
Okay, thank you very much, Gallien. Hello.
Nice to see you.
Me too. So you work for more 20 years at the Stereographer on production, and you're like the engineer behind the magic. You build specialized optics and rigs for different types of cameras. You've been involved on X-Men, the last X-Men, the Amazing Spider-Man, and the Metallica Through the Never movie.
That's true, but don't shortchange me. It's 23 years.
Yeah, I think more than 20.
More than 20 years. 22 last year, 23 this year.
Oh, everything's
So we've
logical.
got 3D in the audience right there. That's it.
Yeah.
I'll speak this way, a little bit, make it more exciting. Well, you know, last year we spoke about the whole revolution that occurred post-Avatar. And there was obviously an evolution to this revolution. And I just wanted to show a little bit of that. You know, we've been designing cameras and camera systems and, as Hervé said, optics and various things for a long, long time. And this was because at the time that I began, there were no tools. And obviously you've got to have the proper tools to shoot in 3D. And that's not to say that you go get a particular camera, you go hire a particular company, and you're going to have a successful result. Everything that Gallien and everybody else has been talking about is absolutely true. We've got to be thinking about these things in advance of production. And probably the most important thing, which Joséphine was touching on, is that the director has got to be on board with the 3D process and the cinematographer. But the director is really the most important person. And I personally have come to really dislike this separation of the stereographer from the cinematographer. I think that's a very bad thing to do. Unfortunately, it has to happen a lot, and particularly on the larger films that I've been involved with, it's a necessity. But it almost creates this rivalry, this fight of, you know, well, the 2D cinematographer wants to do things his traditional way, and we'll give you this opportunity to stick in 3D here and there. I'm just kind of scrolling through some of the images of various tools that we've created over the years, and as they've evolved, they've had more and more capability.
Okay. So for producers, everybody knows 3D means two cameras, but it doesn't mean double teams or equipment.
Well, there are certain things, obviously, that are doubled when we're doing 3D. 2 cameras and certain additional equipment that's needed to combine the images so they can be properly evaluated on set. But we're certainly not doubling the teams. I like to think that there doesn't need to be anyone additional on set, as long as we have a director and a cinematographer who understand what they want from 3D and how to achieve it. That's part of the problem that we've faced in live-action 3D on larger Hollywood productions, is that the producers have seen teams of people who aren't present during 2D films, and that equals more money, more food, more hotel rooms, more day rates. That's no good. Nobody likes that. We don't want that. Want to keep the crew as small as possible. You had asked me, Hervé, before the discussion about different camera systems that can be utilized, and we've seen throughout the evolution a lot of different cameras. It's not about being locked into a particular type of equipment or a particular way of shooting. We've got Arri Alexa M here. This was during the prep for Metallica Through the Never. We've got Red, and we've just recently completed a project with the Red Dragon, which is an amazing piece of technology. Any type of camera system can be used. My goal throughout my career has been to eliminate the perceived limitations for directors and cinematographers and let people know that 3D is not this cumbersome beast. It should be easy, and all the things that Gallien were saying are critically important to making that happen.
And could you explain how you work with the DOP during shooting?
Sure. As I said before, there tends to be this stereographer versus DOP situation where it's kind of a fight. And I've found that there are a lot of directors of photography who fear 3D. And it's something new. They don't want someone else on set telling them what to do with the camera. They have a way of working, and they have a comfort zone that they're in, that when you try to pull them out of it, the result is not good. Now, of course, there are many exceptions to that rule. We've worked with Haskell Wexler just casually, never on an actual film, but Haskell was very, very interested in 3D. This was an early camera system there. We see him looking through. And I had a wonderful experience with Peter Collister on Amazing Spider-Man. We see Peter here behind the camera. But it's difficult to find a cinematographer who's truly open to the concept of making the film sing in 3D.